What is real? Real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Open your mind.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Josh. Welcome to the Repill Project's Conversations on the Fringe. We do this show from time to time on Friday nights, and this is my favorite show. I love this show. It gets us outside of the politics. It gets us outside of the day-and-day grind that we find throughout the week. Whether people realize it or not, I know it affects everybody, but doing a political show during the week and in the sense being political or global conspiracy, it is incredibly taxing on you. It does have an emotional effect on you. So it's nice to unwind on Friday nights with this. And I love this show, Conversations on the Fringe. This is, I've been doing this show longer than the Daily Dose, believe it or not. I went from the Patriot stuff and I started doing this probably my third or fourth month in. We did it consecutive every Friday for a long time. But we talk about all different topics from here, from UFOs, aliens, to ghosts, to the supernatural, to the occult, to ancient history, alternative history, just about everything. And so tonight, we're starting off with just open lines, and we're going to talk some conspiracies. But we have a special guest that's going to join us tonight. Can anybody guess who the special guest is? I'm not going to give any hints. I just want to know if anybody can guess who the special guest is going to be. But when they do join, I will bring them in and we're going to have a spectacular conversation. I don't know what we're going to talk about. Conspiracies, probably. There's an interesting conspiracy going on right now about the Donald Trump assassination attempt. It's a conspiracy theory, but it's a very good one because there's a lot of evidence to substantiate. This is like, when looking at what just happened to Donald Trump, this is like day 2, 3, and 4 after the Kennedy assassination. Like we're looking at the crime scene going with way more tools and resources than they had at that time, going, oh, something ain't right here. What about this? What about this? We're analyzing gunshots. So definitely a conspiracy in that context. I wish it was Trump. So definitely a conspiracy in that context. And we're going to keep you guys updated on the Daily Dose of what's going on with all of that. Nope, not Matt Presti. Matt Presti was on a few weeks ago. But if you're going to go to the camping trip, which the camping trip is coming up next week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we'll all leave Sunday or Monday, depending. And that is in Eureka, Missouri. And Matt Presti will be there. So if you're going to the camping trip, you get the opportunity to meet Matt Presti, as well as myself, for anybody who out there who has never met me. We're just dudes. That's it. We're just cool. We just like to hang out, have fun, have a great time, talk some stuff, and it's going to be a good time. So a special guest coming in. He should be in any minute now, but we'll give him a little bit of time. But I'm thinking, what kind of topics do we want to talk about tonight? Does anybody have? John Rader nailed it. Does anybody have any questions? So we can start off kind of with an open line. So anybody want to talk about anything specifically? I got a few different chats open right now. Move my water bottle so I can see just a little bit better of the Rumble chat. I am Nuke and Mag just said this. I asked Jason. Jason couldn't make it tonight. So I am Nuke and Mag said this on Rumble. Citizen awareness is at the speed of light. Hard to cover this. That is an interesting point. Because if you've been following me for some time, this is what I talk about. The boards were all about. This is what QUE was all about. Was about the citizen journalism to where when events like this happen right now, the mainstream media can no longer control the narrative, but instead it's you and me. Let's bring our special guest in. Let's bring our special guest in. Look at this guy. Oh man, I need to grow my beard back. I gotta grow my beard back.
Hey, what's up, brother?
What's up, man? How we doing?
How you doing? Good, man.
I'm
Good.
doing pretty good. Thanks
The
for joining
timing
me.
finally worked out. Oh my God,
Yeah.
I feel so bad. It's been forever.
Wow. It's okay, it happens, man. Me and Laura Lee had a great show the other weekend, so
Yeah, that went
was
well.
fine. Yeah, it went good. It went good. We had a good conversation.
Oh,
I
good,
think I'm
good.
mirrored. 1 second. I gotta turn this mirrored video shit off. There we go. I can't
Oh, yeah.
stand that.
Is my mirrored on? I don't think so. I don't like
No,
the. No,
you're
I'm
good.
not mirrored. We don't need the mirrored effect.
No, David Whitehead, people. David Whitehead, DW Truth Warrior. If you don't know who he is, we're notorious for doing long shows. I don't know how long tonight will be, but we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna talk about what the hell do you want to talk about? Anything on your mind? I know that we haven't talked in a while. A lot's happened in the
A
world.
lot has happened.
And I want to get an update on you. What's up with you, man? How you been?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, man. Always a good time to be here with great people. Shout out to everybody that's tuning in. And I have been really focused on my martial arts studio lately. It's been taking a lot of my time, but all this time I've been putting into it has really been paying off. We're pretty much maxed out in all of our classes, and just had our kids class compete in their first tournament, and we did really well. So just had a lot going on there. And then of course the family. And then I've been moving all of my production over to Substack as of lately, just because of a lot of things going on. And it's been a lot of crazy things, a lot of crazy moves before. And lately it's just been a better platform, and I've been loving it. And I've just been trying to nail into some of the deeper aspects of the subjects that I really love to look into, and just doing it over there. And then keeping up to tabs on what's been going on. They tried to take some shots at Mr. President Trump, and shot heard around the world and all that stuff. So really perking up as things are getting really hot, and then keeping tabs on Canadian politics. Good friend of mine just released another great documentary film locally, kind of going into the medical fraud stuff. So I'm kind of back into researching the cult of the medics things. I got to do chapter 11 now. So this is pretty much what I've been up to. How about you, brother?
Oh man. Well, firstly, what's your Substack?
I'm looking at dwtruthwarrior.substack.com. dwtruthwarrior.substack.com. And if you go to my website, dwtruthwarrior.com, I just linked it all there. I put Cult of the Medics there for free. I put lots of great free content. And then for those that are supporting what I'm doing, you guys get the best of all the research that I've got. And I'm doing regular, usually every week or 2 weeks, I'm doing deep dives on all the books on my bookshelf that I have yet to go through. So we're just trying to go as deep as we can, as you like to also do. And it's been fun.
That's what she said. Yeah. So, but yeah, man, I've been working on a homestead. So
really?
I figured I have, I got this house back in September, October. It's 2 acres. It's got a pond. It's got a well. The house is in decent shape. It's an older house built in the 70s. But I'm looking at it and I'm going, it's a lot of trees. There's a lot of land, but let's build something on it. Right. And so I built a massive garden. Massive garden. I fenced it in. I built an arbor for the garden, and I'm doing like a Zen garden in there. I'm putting a pond in there. I'm going to do some catfish in the koi pond, and then harvest them during the winter. But then use the water as a fertilizer for sustainable irrigation system that I'm building out. I built a chicken coop. I built all this shit too. So I know I'm capable. I'm a capable human being.
We need to feel this. We need to feel capable and learn new skills, man.
Yes. Dude, I will tell you, it's been a revelation, because for many years, and I don't want to get too much of my personal life, but for many years, it's almost like you lack purpose when you're at home, or you're just going through your daily grind, and you're just being just being your normal self and just researching and doing all these things, you kind of lose track of who you are. But, as of like the last 9 months, I just kind of rekindled who I am. I got my ass up. I started getting outside. I started, first started with mowing the lawn and trying to make that look proper. And then, I saw these crates on the side of the road and pallets on the side of the road. And I'm like, I could do something with them. And I grabbed them and I started just making shit with them. And I made like wood bins in the backyard because I got a wood burning fireplace. So I made wood bins. I'm like, oh, these are cool. I can make them in the fences. So I built the garden. I tilled that whole thing and built a whole fence around it. Now, like I was talking to some guys last night, they're like, take some old engine oil and some diesel fuel to thin it out, put it in a sprayer and use that to spray the wood to preserve it. And I'm like, I did that today. So I sprayed my fence today and, I built the chicken coop. I got a shed I'm building in the backyard right now. I was riding the roof the other day up, 12 feet in the air, scared shitless. And my legs are going to buckle, but, hanging a roof by myself. And I love it. But
That's awesome.
It's masculine. It's masculating, right? It's bringing back that aspect that we are good enough, that we can go out there and we can be sustainable on our own. We can do the things that need to be done. And I looked at it in the sense that, look, if shit really hits the proverbial fan, I have to be in a position to where I can take care of myself and I can take care of my kids and I can take care of my friends and my neighbors. And my neighbors, I got great neighbors and they're all
lucky
Minnesota country boys. And I'm like, if they know how to do these things, I better learn how to do these things. So it's been an uphill battle learning how to do a lot of this stuff, but man, I'm learning a lot. I'm doing a lot. It's cool. It's fun. And I look forward to it every day. I look forward to waking up and just going out there and sweating my ass off and working my ass off and getting bruises. And I have a pet peeve. I don't like dirty fingernails. I hate dirty fingernails. And I've had like stained dirty fingernails with oil and grease and all different types of shit. I'm buying, so I repairing old tractors. So I got a 1972 John Deere 212 outside. And we pulled the carburetor off today and we were cleaning that up. I ordered another one because it's broken, but we're cleaning that up. We're going through sharpening the blades, just doing all this like small engine work and all this stuff. I love it. It's fun and it's learning something, right? But you think about the generation ahead of us. These men knew how to do all these things. I think about my grandfather, my father. They know how to do all this shit. You say, yeah, let's build a shed. They're like, oh, well, I buy one for $5,000. Let's go build one and buy the lumber and you design it and you build it. And it's like, boom, there it is. And, we need to get back to that type of system, that type of roots to where there's a skill exchange that people are continuously learning. And I think that's really what it is that you have to be continuously learning in life.
Well, and let me ask you this question after that, because that's amazing. How has that made you feel? How's that changed your energy? I mean, you look vibrant, you look fresh, you look pretty solid. So you must have been out there working a lot. And what does that bring you?
Happiness, dude.
There you go.
I'm not going to lie. I mean, like my muscle mass is, whoa, night and day. Like there's not enough hours in the day for me to get shit done. I'm not on TikTok anymore. I don't like do the social media that much anymore. I post less on Twitter, which I try to make time because that's part of the job, right?
Yeah.
But like my muscle mass, like I got my biceps are back, my chest is forming back up.
There you go.
Like my muscles are forming, like my injuries are slowly going away. My knee is getting stronger. But you wake up and you're sore, but it's a good sore, but yet you feel accomplished. And it's that sense of accomplishment that brings about that inner peace and that inner happiness. And that's one thing that I've discovered is that in order to be happy, you have to be accomplished.
Yep.
You have to find something to accomplish. You have to find something to take from beginning to end and see it through for fulfillment, because that brings about that inner state of accomplishment, and that equals, in my sense, happiness.
Dude, this is so key. And I love how, we never plan these talks. We just kind of come on and talk, and Josh and I go way back now, and you always hit something. I'm literally in the same headspace where, first of all, I'm mastering the plumbing side of my home. I'm learning all the ins and outs of that. And then what's forcing me to do it is all these plumbing issues that I'm like, I don't need to call some guy to do this. I can learn how to, this is simple. And half the time you just got to change like a pipe or a thing or something, you know?
Yeah.
So, and then the next thing happens and then you got to learn that. And but it all fits with the overall message, which is that spirit that you're talking about getting your hands to work or putting your hands towards something productive, something that gives you a sense of accomplishment. They can be simple things. They can be big things, right? That's the spirit that built the West. It's not the spirit of, you know, the one-sided story that you get, that everybody's getting right now with all the social conditioning to hate the concept of freedom and hard work and all the principles and the foundational principles that are there. And I just mean overall, the spirit of it was built on, we can build something better. And by building something better, we're making ourselves better. We're making our communities better. We're building something. And although there's a lot of flaws in the history of the West, and there's a lot of the whole story that we talk about all the time, it wasn't the only story.
Right.
The main thing I remember talking to my grandfathers, like you were saying, those generations, my father, his father, they knew how everything worked. They knew, like my father, he's a engineer, technical engineer. So like, he doesn't just buy the latest computer. He goes and buys all the parts and puts it together and makes it himself, because he knows how it actually works. And it's the same with these like handymen and getting their hands going. And you wonder why everybody's so depressed. It's because things are being done for you at a rate that wasn't done before. And there's actually a satisfaction built into us that comes directly from applying our minds and our bodies and our hands towards creating something of value out of nothing. And that feeling of that pioneering spirit and creative spirit, and put your hands to work and make the changes and do it yourself. And you don't know how to do it, find the person that does and learn from them and do it anyways. And against all odds, that was the spirit of building free countries and free nations and free men. And so that's, to me, as simple as it sounds, maybe putting a little project together in your backyard, building a chicken coop or whatever. It's actually part of reconnecting with that spirit that is trying to be drowned out right now by all this propaganda that's trying to demasculinize men, defeminize women, destroy the idea of freedom. When you have private property rights, right? We talk about this all the time. Well, you should learn how to take care and tend that property. You're not just supposed to claim ownership over that property. You're now the person that's there to tend and take care. You're the custodian. That becomes responsibility. And so that's that spirit that, to me, I know I'm kind of making it a bit bigger than it is, but I think it's important. Not at all. I think it's key. You know, we all need to put our hands to good work.
I 100% agree. And, you know, it's interesting because I had some flooding in my house. We had massive rains that came through here. And what they did is there's 3 sump pumps. There's one outside and there's 2, one in the laundry room, and there's one in the crawl space. The one in the crawl space, you can tell, came in later because they set the hose for the drain into sump pump 1. So when you have a lot of water come up under the floor, it's pumping it into the first sump pump, which can't keep up. So I started flooding, and I saw the problem. I'm like, this is fucking stupid. Like, who the hell would do this, right? And I looked at the problem, and I'm like, well, I got to go out there, and I got to run another exhaust line. I got to run another pipeline out of the house to the drain pipe, to the 2.5-inch drain pipe that I have out there that takes it down to the negative decline. And so I went out to the store, got all the materials, got all the stuff for the PVC, cut the pipe, built a fixture onto the wall to hold the other one. I put this one in, I put it through the wall. I mounted everything so the pipes are no longer moving and stuff. I replaced the PVC outside with just flexi hose that goes into the 2.5-inch drain pipe. And then I ran a new hose from the sump pump number 2 to sump pump number 1. And voila, works like a dream, works like a champ. Everything works perfectly. And I'm like, I did that, right? And I don't know shit about plumbing,
Right.
but I'm like, I did that. And it works. My basement is dry as a bone. And, you know, you start looking at things like that, and it's like, I had an electrician come in here a few months ago. So I have a dryer, and out here in the dryers are 220, so 220 volts, right? So you need a different outlet installed for your dryer. And so I asked the guy to come out and give me a quote. And he gave me a $3,200 quote to run a 30-foot wire to replace that outlet. Because there's one wire, just one wire that needed to be ran. $3,200. And I looked at him like, are you crazy? Are you like stupid or something? Like, buddy, I know what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, no, let me show you. And he prices it all out. And I'm like, no, dude. Like, he goes, well, your floor beams run this way, then they run this. I'm like, no, dude. There's all you have to do is just pull the old wires back, and we can pull the new wires forward. And I said, we mapped out the whole thing. He's like, no, it's got to be in code. It's got to. I'm like, you know what, dude? Thank you. See you. Goodbye. So what did I do? I changed the freaking plug cable out on the dryer to 120. So you can go out and buy a new cable for your dryer because it'll work off of 120 or it'll work off of 220. So I just replaced the cable. $15. Like, but here's the thing is people out there, they will rip you off. They will take advantage of the lack of knowledge.
Right.
They will. And so if there's something happening in your house, try to figure out how to do it yourself. There's something that needs to be done in your yard. If you're going to like landscaping, do your own landscaping, people. Don't call some magical designer to come out there and make it look all pretty. Dude, go out there and make it look as rustic as possible, as crazy as your creative mind can get, but know that you did it. Like my garden outside, I have the rustic garden theme, right? So like I got all these like pallet crates that I kind of built the chicken coop out of. I built the fence out of. And then I built an arbor, an A-frame arbor that kind of like an entrance into the garden. And I went and grabbed this dude's old fence that he was throwing away. It's all just pine stakes. And so I built trellis out of that and threw it on my arbor, and I threw it on my chicken coop. So it looks like a rustic barn. So my whole garden looks like this old rustic farm. I fucking love it. But so all the landscaping kind of is going to match that. Like I got a big old tractor tire in my front yard full of dirt that I'm sticking a flagpole in, and I'm going to put my flags up there. Just be creative on your own. You don't need to spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to have someone else do it for you when you could learn that skill, learn that trade yourself. And I mean, and that's the ultimate thing. I've always said this is our purpose here on this planet is to learn what you did not know that you did not know, to go out there and learn those things new, to benefit yourself, because every time that you do, you become accomplished, you grow mentally, spiritually, you grow physically. And I mean, listen, accomplishment brings about happiness, people. Go out there and find things in your life to accomplish. If you're just going home after work, and nobody really feels accomplished at work unless you own your own business, right? And if you're coming home and it's a Saturday or something like that, and you're just sitting out in the sun drinking martinis, great if that's what makes you feel accomplished. But if you can get something done, if you can go out there and learn something new, do it, because I'm telling you, it will change your biochemistry.
Oh, absolutely. And just having any level, this is what I try to teach my kids too, is, hey, if you want to relax and you want to play a game or do something else, right? Earn that time. Like feel like you earned it. Like, you did something productive that you're actually going to feel proud of, even though maybe it was some hard work or was the stuff you didn't want to do, right? Just like, do you want your garbage can in your bedroom just overflowing everywhere? Like, seriously, like what kind of environment do you want to have? And then make it happen and just try to get that productivity back. It's something I've been trying to emphasize on the mats in my dojo with my students. And also I've been back training a lot. So I've been trying to think, of this myself. And it's this idea of, you need some kind of vehicle to perfect and actualize yourself through. And it can be, like I said, be little things like what you're bringing up. It could be a discipline like martial arts or a sport or dance, or even intellectual stuff with, writing and poetry and whatever it is, right? Music making, where you're applying yourself. You're not applying yourself just to get everybody to recognize you for it. Although that's nice. I'm not saying you don't want to get recognized, but you have to find something that you love doing that is hard and is challenging and challenges you to grow in your knowledge and to add skill. And through that process, you gain self-esteem, you gain a knowledge of yourself. You know now what you're capable of doing. Whereas if you didn't do those things, you wouldn't know that. And therefore your spirit would be diminished, you know? And if we think about like, what do we do with all this crazy stuff going on in the world? How do we survive this? There's so much that's outside of our control. And it seems like a big, crazy, dark mess right now. But the only place you have control over is what you're doing and what you're not doing in your own personal life. That is going to either negatively or positively affect the lives around you in your little small sphere of influence, right? Maybe no one person, except for a few exceptions, can change the entire world. But like, what can you do to change your world just from like, think of the battering everybody took psychologically during all those lockdowns. And just over the last, say 4 to 6 years has just been like everybody feels very drained, right?
Yeah.
And so how are you going to reanimate yourself? And for me, I went, okay, I'm going to get my hands busy around my home. I'm going to get more productive, and I'm going to apply myself back to the thing that created me, which was the martial arts. And I went, and I'm going to try to be the best that I've ever been. And I made that promise to myself. I don't have to be better than anybody else. I don't have to be some world champion or anything. I just have to be better than I've ever been. And then by doing that, my students are going to see the fire in my eyes, and they're going to train, and they're going to want to do it with me. And then that allows me to go, wow, by me getting off my lazy ass and making something of myself, when I could say, yeah, I'm 42 years old, I could just hang up the gloves and not do it anymore. Right. I'm like, no, I'm going to go up, and I'm doing it not because I want everybody to know. I'm doing it because I need a vehicle of expression. I need a vehicle that's going to challenge me. I need someone to be crushing me from side control. I need somebody to put some pressure on me when I'm tired, because then mentally my gas tank is full. Right. And I think that's what maybe people miss is the work outside of the work, if that makes sense. So like, look what you've done. Like, you're probably feeling, let me guess, much more balanced and energetic for your shows and the work you do, which is so important because of this other stuff you're doing to take care of your home, actualize yourself, work with your property, love your property, right? Like, that whole process has got to animate the rest of your work.
It does. And, you know, I thought it would be difficult doing shows just by myself. Like, I never struggled before, but sometimes you do, 30-minute, 45-minute monologues, and you're like, whoa, how did I do that? I can't do that every night. But, I do my shows primarily by myself every night. I do all my own research. And it's been easy lately because the narrative is flowing with very similar context to what I've been saying the last 4 years.
It's
so
really
now
just pressure lately.
It's like, So, but in one of my things that I'm kind of on myself about that I want to do is I haven't been able to really kind of deep dive into a lot of conspiracy, a lot of research, and a lot of the other stuff keeps me busy to that point. But that's still where my passion lies. And it's interesting because the conversation that we're having right now is critically important to the future of this planet, because it's something that in another generation or another 10 to 20 years, people aren't going to understand what we're talking about, because the majority of these tasks that we're talking about, all the skilled labor, this is all going to be replaced by machines, robots, and artificial intelligence. And see, what we're talking about here is one thing that those things can never do and can never have. They're always going to be dependent upon a system of programming, a system of control, of where we have this ability to express ourselves. And I think that that's really the drive of free will, is that self-expression. But we have this ability to express ourselves. I mean, I look at a project and I don't think it's too hard or whatnot. I always look at something like the other day I went and loaded. You ever seen those 1 foot by 1 foot brick pavers? They're like 45 pounds each. I loaded 100 of them at 10 p.m. at night in the back of my truck by myself, right? And I looked at it and I go, shit. But I said, it's not infinite. It's a limited quantity of things. And it's going to take a limited amount of time to do it. And you're more than capable. And that's how I look at it. And I go about that and I do that. Now, a robot doesn't think that way. An AI is not going to assess things like that. An
Right.
AI is not going to have the ability to go out there and create poetry, to write music. It can only recreate what has already been created. And I think that that's important because in 10 to 20 years, the next generations coming up, they're not going to understand what we're talking about that internal feeling of self-accomplishment, of that level of happiness that we were able to achieve. Just like we're not able to comprehend the level of accomplishment that the people that in the 1840s and the 1850s who headed west, who conquered the Western United States and Canada, what they felt when they finally staked out their 1,200 acres, their 100 acres, or their 500 acres, when they finally got to where they were going and planted their first seeds after they built their cabin by hand in the middle of the winter. I don't think we'll ever be able to feel that level of happiness and accomplishment. But here's the thing is we still have some resemblance of it. And
Well,
we're
we can
holding on
redo
to
it
it.
in our own modern way, right? Like, yeah, that's a unique time that
Yeah.
the pioneers. I mean, I guess maybe every era, every civilization, every what do you call it? Like every crop of humanity is going to experience a brand new version of that thing. We're all singing through the same instruments here, but at the same time, we're in different times, different epochs, and in that time, that was the challenge of the day. And I think sometimes we sort of talk down to ourselves in the modern era because we're doing work in the digital space. And
Hmm.
especially from the older generation, they really look down on the internet and the digital and the technology. And they're like, there's always just this overall sense of, we just got to throw it all in the ocean and go back to the Stone Age because it was more simpler, right? But at the same time, there's been a lot of great progress that's come with technology also. And the work that we do on the internet is affecting millions of people collectively, right? Like
Mhm.
in a way that you couldn't possibly do in previous times to influence maybe some change that would have changed history in previous times. Think of during the World War I, World War II era, if you had something like social media, especially with free speech social media, where you have the ability to communicate instantaneously to your entire nation outside of government information, right? Or in the Middle Ages or whatever. So different times, but now we're in a different age. We're in the digital age, and there's no putting it back into Pandora's box. So we don't want to become a bunch of Luddites and just reject it all. We need to navigate. I think it's the whole digital battlefield thing is to understand that there are certain people that were born in certain eras. I believe our generation is one. There's a lot of people from our generation, Josh, that were born in the era we were, that are in a unique middle ground space that a lot of other because the generation after us didn't get to see the transitional stage that we saw in the 80s and 90s, right?
Yeah.
And like we were there when the internet came out. Like think about it. Like it was like I remember.
It's
You
mind
can go
blowing to
talk to
think about it
people.
like that, right?
Yeah. And so when I speak to like you probably have tons of guests that come on, as I do, great, amazing, brilliant people, but are from the older generation, and having them understand and remember basic technological knowledge about how to log in for podcasting and prepare your cameras and your microphones and make sure it's all like, that's like, you might as well be speaking Greek no matter how much you tell them. And God bless them. I mean, that's just their minds were not crafted in the time that ours were, where this is like, oh, it's second nature. And then my daughters, they can zip and do all these different things way quicker than I can. There's an intuitive knowledge that's there. So I'm kind of like, all right, here's the issue. We're in this information age, in this digital age, as the WEF constantly likes to refer to it as. So there's no putting it back. But so how do we not have this digital matrix imposed on humanity where AI and robots and all the sci-fi movies come to reality, but also we don't have to get rid of the many benefits that technology and communications and modern technology has brought us. So I'm sitting in the middle on this, but I see both sides of, like, if you go the extreme either way, there's problems. And I guess, yeah, I kind of feel bad for some of the older generation because we've also been on hyper speed development, like in the last 10 years, it's been supersonic. Like it's unrecognizable world. Just as soon as smartphones came out and now everybody's walking around with these ridiculous goggles on, it's like demolition, man. And it's like way too fast for a lot of people.
It is. And I mean, it's even fast for me, but it's going to be exponentially, right?
Yeah.
It's going to keep on increasing because that's how technology drives a civilization. Um, but I love the idea that millennials or Gen X or Gen what is it? Yeah, Gen Xers. Who the hell are we? Yeah,
I
Gen
don't even
Xers,
know
millennials.
I don't know what I
Yeah.
don't follow the things.
Well, but
I was born in
anyways,
82. I don't know what I mean.
79 to like 84, whatever
Yeah,
that range is, are in there.
that's it.
We saw that. So right, we saw the birth of the internet. We saw the birth of video games, which is
Napster.
massive.
Yeah.
Oh, Napster. People don't remember Napster, right? America Online, ASL, ASL, question
Dial-up.
age, sex, language. Yeah, dial up bandwidth using. Only having one phone line in the house to connect the internet, and someone wants to use a phone, or your brother's expecting a phone call, and you have to deal with those problems, right?
Or
Like,
remember, you could go to a payphone and you could phone a number for free to find out what time it is.
that's right.
I tell my kids what's a payphone?
They're hard to find these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think about it, like just how fast the world has transitioned. But you're right; it was that introduction of smartphones,
Yeah.
and that technology which has just completely traversed our civilization. And I mean, I don't know if you caught Trump's speech the other night, the
I
RNC.
did. I've been watching this very closely.
Oh yeah, and he said that we're going to build an iron dome to protect our country. And I'm like, okay, I want to listen to this part because I caught the last time. I didn't catch the last time he was talking about this. And he goes, Ronald Reagan had the Star program, the Star Wars program. And he goes, back then we didn't have the technology to do this stuff, but now we're going to do it. He's not talking about building like an Israeli Iron Dome around Florida and California. He's talking about building weapons in space.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think people caught that. I caught it. He's talking about building, massive weapons that surround North America in space.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, man, we are in the future right now. And then you gotta, I take that to the next part is, why is Elon Musk giving his campaign $45 million a month? Well, Elon wants that contract because that's going to be a lot of trips from Earth to space back and forth that SpaceX is going to get paid for. So, but it's
well, these guys are buddies. Come on, there's something going on. Something going on behind the scenes.
If Trump gets in the office, I want people to really kind of extrapolate this idea a little bit. He's going to build the 10 new cities in the United States that are going to be completely modernized. And I don't know what they're going to look like, but just think of how that's going to go. Think about this guy knows all of Las Vegas. He's a real estate developer. Dana White. I mean, these are going to be tourist hotspots around the world. Think about Dubai and UAE making these cities. This is what Donald Trump wants to do. He wants to increase tourism to various different states to increase the economy to them. And he's going to build a city that absolutely does that. It's spectacular to look at, to travel to, like Tokyo. This is what he wants. And so I know he can do it because that's what the man does. He creates. But just think about how different this world's going to be. If Donald Trump gets in the office, he has his way, he progresses the United States forward, fixes the currency, monetary issues, and he actually gets his way to do what he wants. But we know that that's probably not going to be the case because there's a lot of people in the intermediary that are going to come into the play. But just imagine the world we could have. Imagine the world we could have as a lot of this technology began to come out, which it is, but it's coming out in private corporations. Mm-hmm. It's coming out in private interest. AI, we know, has been around for at least 10 years. Google has artificial general intelligence that they've had for at least a decade. 5 years ago, they began integrating it into DeepMind, into a biosynthetic bio-neural web.
That's
in
the world
quantum
simulator,
computing.
right? DeepMind.
Yeah, into quantum computing, and they've been aggregating data into it. So we know that they've been doing this, and where did they get that technology? Well, I mean, Google, CIA, DARPA. You have Regina Dugan, who was with Facebook's. Now she's with Google. She's the former head of DARPA. She's with the Welcome Company. All these guys,
And
the
they've all
Welcome
been
Trust.
interlocked for decades. Those companies,
That's right.
big tech and the CIA, like the intelligence and the big tech media, and Silicon
Yeah.
Valley.
So there's a political deep state people, and then there's a corporate deep state.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other aspect that we have to understand, is that there are people behind the scenes that are shaping how things come about. And we could have a brilliant, beautiful, highly technologically and spiritually advanced society, very civil, peace all the way around. But these people don't want that, because it reduces the amount of control that they will have over the system. And that's why we have what we have right now. And that's what I believe the fight is for right now. The fight is for control of that system, and who's going to let it go and let it free, and who wants to lock it down even more. I think that is the real battle that we're at right now.
Yeah, and what I think, I mean, and guys, this is just my pipe dream theory that I'm entertaining as we go through this, because none of us ultimately know, and I would rather have my mind on something that's a little more hopeful and positive than going into the pits of despair. Okay. And that doesn't mean we're not active. I hate this accusation that anybody that has anything positive to theorize about is somehow encouraging people to sit on their ass and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that's always the false equivalency, because that's not what this is. But I think that, and I'm starting to gather more, at least pieces of anecdotal evidence for it, that, you know, what we call like white hats, or we're seeing all these whistleblowers coming out, and everybody's got questions about Elon and Trump and all these people, and who are these patriots, and who are the ones posting on all these boards, and how is this information even allowed to come out to the public? How is the public even mentioning a name like Epstein, Maxwell, even being made aware of any level of this? How is this even possible, right? So my thing is, on the front of it, there's a positive movement going on somewhere that's allowing for this information to come out. So just kind of starting just objectively, nothing too detailed at this point. And then you go to the next level and you go, okay, is there any precedent in the history of this unfolding conspiracy, as we call it, meaning the criminal operation to essentially destroy all the sovereign nation states in the world, consolidate power into one ring of power to rule them all, and to work on a mass human depopulation program, and to install a technocratic global dictatorship that would guide humanity towards the future of whoever's dreaming this, right? That's always been the sort of overall thing here, right?
Mm-hmm.
The main conspiracy. The infiltration of the West was a huge component of it, because that was the only thing that every single part of the constitutions and the concept of individual rights, free speech, property rights, right to liberty, freedom, happiness, like these were all completely antithetical towards the vision of these utopian socialist, globalist, whatever's, right? And so they had to work over time to install essentially a deep state within all of these nations in the West, because they'd already kind of conquered the rest of the world previously. And they kept it down to such a degree, like think of China after Mao Zedong, never really bounced back and is now ruled by the Communist Chinese Party, right? So there's all these times where certain civilizations like Germany had its moment where it was starting to become another almost like American empire before Hitler, right? Just in terms of the industry, the ingenuity, the thinkers, the culture. And what happened? They install one of their puppets, cut that shit down, turn it into something else. Now it's not really booming the way it probably could have. And the same with the Iranian, the Persian Empire was wiped out as well. And now look, you got like radical Stone Age Islam ruling the roost over there. And then in the West, they used a different brand of attacks and had to constantly attack it and test it, like you test where the weakness in the wall is, by these experiments to try to see, how do we take down America? How do we take down Germany? How do we take down Russia? The three big kings, right? So they ran the socialist experiments in the 20th century. We saw what happened. And all these guys did was sit back and take notes and go, well, how do we combine the best of all of these different versions of our cocktail and make it global, something that would fit the world model to consolidate power, right? So we know about this. This is the agenda. Now, along the way of this, are you telling me over the last 200 years within Masonic institutions, within academic institutions, within governments, within intelligence services, within military branches, within every sector of society in the West specifically, are you telling me in the space agencies, in the private space, that there's nobody in there that is going to resist this? Yeah. Like that every single employee, from the guy that mops the floor to the guy who's pushing the buttons on the big supercomputers, right? That nobody's going to go, what? This is pretty fucking dark. I'm part of destroying my country. Like, this is what they're trying to do. Like, these people, like, think of the CIA. Just one example. Like, documented the history of this. And now look what's going on. You think these assassinations are coming from a bunch of disgruntled Trump people? No. The guard was let down, just like it was with JFK, just like it was with Israel and Palestine, just like it was with Ukraine. There's a systematic way to attack. But here's the thing. It's not always working out anymore. It used to be so simple. And now there's resistance. Now there's information leaking out. So my theory is this, and I found some interesting books talking about the history. So I did a recent premium presentation called The Occult History of Communism. Okay. And I did communism specifically, but in the thing, I bring out how when I'm saying that, I'm just talking about one of the flavors of Gatorade that is the main ingredient of everything that spawned all the isms that are just different tools of control for different demographics, right? And I said, okay, as that was formed, does anybody know that, say, for example, Karl Marx was a part of a lodge called the Lodge of the Philadelphians, that he was a part of a Masonic order, okay? And that he was essentially commissioned by some of these private families and members of these occult orders, okay? And so then you start going, okay, interesting. And then you hear about what went down with fascism in Italy and in Germany, where both Italy and Germany just so happen to have major occult groups around the figureheads of Mussolini and Hitler. Thule Society, blah, 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 okay? Right. I can't remember the Italian names. So you go, interesting. And then now everybody today in the alternative media, immediately, if you see anybody like a Manly P. Hall or any of these whistleblowers that came from within Freemasonry, including the Duke of Brunswick and all these people that we've cited on Unslaved, we have their records, and they tried to blow the whistle on this like hundreds of years ago. The minute you bring them up and associate them in any way with any type of group, people get focused on groups. And some people think it's the Masons running it. Some people think it's the Jesuits. Some people think it's the Jews. Some people think it's the CIA. They think it's the Satanists. They think it's the Illuminati. And I'm sitting there going, just ready to bang my head against the wall to say, you're just speaking in marketplace language, bro. You're speaking in public square marketplace language about your understanding, because we've only got little whispers of this stuff through history. And yet what I think is these are all it's all different names of trying to describe the same thing at the end. And so to boil it all down is, I think there's a precedent that even in the beginning of, say, the French Revolution, or the Bavarian Illuminati with Adam Weishaupt, or the Hellfire Clubs, or some of these other secret society histories that eventually came into America, even Skull and Bones, that there's always been what you could call
the overseer.
But I'm not talking about the bad guys here. I'm talking about the resistance, the true resistance fighters from within that were sitting there they went into these groups for maybe, they wanted to get ahead politically. They wanted to rub shoulders with some of the elites, because there was a lot of the black nobility, aristocrats, the real bigwigs. So you want to get up the pole, and then you find out, oh my God, we are a part of something very nefarious. And if you're not into that and you're patriotic and you don't want your country to get run over by these people, what do? You're already in, you're born in, you're in the, just theoretically, think of somebody like an Elon Musk, just as an example, right? I don't know. He could be pulling the wool over all of our eyes. He could be a guy wearing a mask and they already took out I've heard all the wacky shit you can, right? But think of somebody that went from where the public perspective of him for many years was that he was a part of bringing in this transhumanist digital AI, super global government state. He was a Satanist, whatever. And there's probably people in the chat that are going to think he is, and maybe he is. But yet he's the only one that's allowing, one of the only ones that's allowing the size of platform that used to be Twitter and is now X to have conversations that we previously couldn't have. And without that, I don't even know if half the world would have even known that they shot at President Trump.
Right.
Okay. And no, it's not perfect. And everybody's going to go, yeah, but I'm being shadow banned and all. Yeah, but right. There's certain things happening, and you start to wonder whether it's Elon, maybe he's not even the best example, or whether there's other people we don't even know. What if the pressures, because of the power and the amount of control that was had in all these different areas, anybody within that I'm speaking about, that could be like a white hat or whatever you want to call it, just someone that's like us, that's like, no, I don't want this shit going down. How would you fight back? If you come out, they're going to take you out. It's the mafia. Okay. The biggest mafia in the world ever. Okay. They're going to take you out and or they're going to do something to destroy your public credibility, or they're going to turn you into Britney Spears dancing naked in your kitchen with a set of steak knives. Right. So you go, how do I actually fight back if I'm on the inside? Well, I'll look for others. Maybe there's others that also feel the same way that I do. And over the years, you develop a network. You develop a network amongst many different spheres and areas in society, just like the dark side did, that has their agenda. And so what I think is that the reason we're still here and not in like a hot World War III right now, and we're seeing the revelations that we are, is because there's many factions working, and some of them might be working for their own selfish interest, but there are many factions working against the old guard, the old extintionists. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
So I explain it as the multi-headed Hydra, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So we have a multi-headed Hydra. Each head is a different faction. Each faction has various different ideologies or cults. So I look at it in the perspective that right now they are eliminating the Satanists and the Marxists. So those factions that have kind of ruled over the world for the last 40, 50 years, that old guard perspective, maybe the old monarchs are involved in this, but they're eliminated. The reason we're seeing the pedophilia from the royal families and Epstein is because they want us to know. I hope everybody understands that. Is the only reason that all that information came out is because somebody wanted you to know.
Yeah.
Somebody up there that's high up, they wanted you to know because they were setting up the takedown of those people. And I look at it as like, you got your Elon Musk, you got your Peter Thiels, you got your Donald Trumps. That faction, they did a coup against those motherfuckers and they won. And they're winning right now. But there's a perspective here that I've been talking about on my show the last 2 days. And I don't think people truly grasp what just happened with the Donald Trump assassination attempt. Somebody up there in that multi-headed Hydra, David, said, yes, take him out. And when they made that decision, they rightfully knew the consequences of it. That the moment that bullet hit Donald Trump's head and he died, that there was going to be a civil war, there was going to be social unrest, there was going to be riots in the street, and there's going to be the overthrowing of the government. And I want everybody to understand that they made that decision for that to happen this week. That somebody made that call very, very high up there for that to happen. Number one, that's how desperate they are. I want that is 100%. That's how desperate they are. And number two, they failed. That also shows their lack of power. Or
and epically failed too, because not only did they miss, he's been turned into a martyr.
That's it. And not only this is, I have a feeling, because I was talking about this the other day, and I want maybe get your perspective on this. Do you know who Palantir is?
Palantir from like Star Wars?
Palantir is a company.
Oh, sorry.
It's like Star Wars, Emperor Palantine, right?
Palantir, sorry.
Yeah, Palantir is an AI company.
Okay.
right? They've been around for a long time. They were founded by Peter Thiel. So
Right.
Peter Thiel
Okay.
is a member of the PayPal mafia, him and Elon Musk, multi-billionaire, tons of investments. One of them was Palantir, and they have government and intelligence agency contracts. Now, we did a show on Palantir 4 years ago, maybe. And one of the technologies that they had was a predictive analytics software with data aggregation. So what they do is they take this AI that its AI's whole purpose is predictive analytics to predict what's going to happen next. And they aggregate 20 years of data into it, news data. They just said, we're going to aggregate news data into it. And then it'll say, hey, this is what I potentially think is going to happen. But imagine this is LifeLog, DARPA program, Facebook, right? Then you got Google, YouTube, all these places. They're not taking just what websites you go to. That's old data. They are producing behavioral profiles on what makes you tick. They know what position your phone is in, if it's in your back pocket, your front pocket, if it's in your hand, if you're taking a shit, if you're walking down the street. They know how many beats per second that your heart is beating at. They know if your adrenaline's going. They know what you're eating. They know every damn thing about you, including your behavioral profile. Imagine uploading into an artificial intelligence with predictive analytics capabilities billions of behavioral profile data for 20 years. Do you think that that AI would have a certain accuracy in predicting what's going to happen the next year?
Mm-hmm.
I do too. And those guys are on Trump's side. And that bullet missed Trump. But if you look at Trump, firstly, he's like, I was looking at the billboard, right? He had the screen right here. But he was weirdly looking over there. It was not normal on how he was looking over there. And I don't know. A lot of people are saying it's divine intervention, that he had the hand of God looking out for him. I always have to go to a more logical, kind of rational perspective, that they knew that that was going to happen on that day. And they knew that Trump's head had to be in a certain position at a certain time. I don't know. That's just my thought of all the sequence of events that happened. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it was divine intervention. It absolutely could have been. But what I'm thinking is that if we go back to the boards, the QUE boards, they're always one step ahead of them. We know their playbook, moves and counter moves. This is what it's all about. And Donald Trump just proved to them that he cannot be taken out. And they were willing to take him out and scorch this earth, to destroy this country, to take him out, which means to me that they're planning something else, that something else is going to happen. Now they're going to move to World War III because they have no other choice, because they will never give up power to this man. But go ahead.
Well, and yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, and I think about it, because you hear all this whispering about, scare event necessary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, like that was a close call. Was that what they're talking about? And you don't know. An interesting thing that it got me kind of motivated to watch a certain movie tonight with my wife. And it became, because there was this video going around of this guy who's like, I'm not into conspiracies. I'm not into any of this stuff. I just think it's really weird coincidence that Trump goes to speak at the RNC, and you're expecting the typical grand exit at the end. And apparently Trump is known for being the one to pick music for everything, like at the golf things, at the dinner, at the this or that, right? And he picks the music for his entrances and exits and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And he's basically very involved in the process. And the song that he picks to exit is not like some rock song from any American band or anything you might think.
Dorma.
Is that what yeah, it's some opera song.
It's an opera, Nessun Dorma.
Right. And it comes from The Sum of All Fears, the film.
From the movie The Sum of All Fears, but only a certain part of The Sum of All Fears.
Do you know about this? You're bursting. Tell about this. What do you think? Because I'm going to watch it tonight with my wife after this stream.
Okay. So in the movie Sum of All Fears, it was an inside job. At the end, they go out and they execute all the deep state actors. And that song's playing when they're executing the deep state actors.
And wasn't it like a presidential assassination attempt and like
Well,
The
it was a
nuke,
dirty nuke. Yeah, it was a dirty
dirty nuke.
nuke and all that. Yeah, yeah. So and this is
It's
Tom
kind of like,
Clancy.
yeah. And
Yeah.
and then with the video, someone posted the Q post that said, Anons need to be familiar with these movies. And they put
Some
White
welfare shit.
Squall, bunch of other ones, right? Like certain the Citizen something, the one with Gerard Butler. And
So
then this one.
you know what else is interesting? And so I don't know if you knew my prediction of what I believe they're going to do with Joe Biden. So
No, what do you think?
I think Joe Biden is going to pass away in office.
Really?
It's
Do
the
you think they're
only
not just going to
logical.
squirrel him away with COVID?
No. So it's the only logical conclusion because the Democrats have basically destroyed themselves. Okay. It's self-destruction. If they remove Joe Biden right now, they lose 3 states automatically. There's 3 states that they cannot get back, even if they 25th Amendment Joe Biden. Okay. So that hurts. Number 2 is it's going to take years to rebuild the Democrat Party. Okay. The Democratic Party.
Because who are they going to put up now? They got nobody.
Yeah, they got nobody. But if Joe Biden dies, now you got the sympathy of a dead president. Firstly, nobody's going to investigate a dead president. Nobody's going to investigate the family of a dead president. So the investigations into the Democratic Party, because that's where they're going to right now after the Biden stuff, they end. They end immediately. Then you got the sympathy of a country. Nobody's going to make fun of them. Nobody's going to talk about Alzheimer's or dementia. That's all going to go away. But then the person that comes up as the candidate rides the wave of that sympathy. I didn't have to do this. I didn't want to do this, but I'm doing this for my country. And you need that after this failed assassination attempt on Trump. And so I believe that Joe Biden will pass away in office between August and the end of September, and that Hillary Clinton will rise up and take his place. Now,
it's probably Hillary, eh?
I think it'll be Hillary. Now, this is interesting because I've been saying this for months, okay? I've been saying this for freaking months. Did you see Elon's post the other day?
Which one? He's posted so much now.
So Elon did it again. He had a post up there that goes on with the boards. And I saw this and I'm like, no. Did he really just do that? Let me pull this up real quick.
I was thinking as you were talking there, what about that speech Trump made in the Alamo right before he stepped down, where he was saying that the 25th Amendment is going to come back to haunt Joe Biden, the Joe Biden administration? What do you think about that?
Well, it's kind of what's happening right now. Yeah, it's kind of what's happening right now. Yeah.
Oh, here it is. Okay.
So Elon posted that they're taking Biden fishing soon and posted this picture.
Right. Like
interesting. Yeah, but do you know where that picture's from?
No.
That's Fredo's death from Godfather 3.
Oh, shit.
That's from Godfather Part 3. Yes. And so here's the interesting thing is Elon posted it at 1:19 p.m. You go to the boards, post 1:19, Godfather 3.
No shit. This stuff's hilarious, man. Like, it's like, how can it... Hey, I don't know. I still, those films, you know who else told me to watch Godfather 3 for other reasons?
Who's that?
Jordan Maxwell.
When
I was speaking to him, I did a show with him, right? And he said right away, and the reason he brought up Godfather 3 was to show the connection between the mafia, the high level, like La Cosa Nostra, and the Vatican. And he said, they tell you the story in Godfather 3. He said, if you watch Godfather 3, they whistleblow so much in there, you've got all you need to research the rest of your life. I went, really? Just that film? He goes, yep. Well, they told you everything.
The mafia is the criminal extension of the black nobility who took over the Vatican in the 1850s after the coup attempt, right? So, but he's absolutely right. I haven't talked to Jordan since 2016. I became friends with Jordan Maxwell. So I used to be a really big fan. And I emailed him one time. And it was interesting because he spelled his name Jordan, and his email address was JORDN Maxwell at Gmail. He's dead, so he can give his email address out. But he called me up and we talked like every weekend for months. And at first it was me trying to help him with some legal stuff that he got himself into. And this is Jordan Maxwell, talking about Capitis Alimucius Maximus and stuff and Roman law, canon law and how the law works. And he got himself in a contractual pickle and he wanted my help. And it was kind of cool. But then we got into the deeper occult stuff. And he was going through a really hard time in life. This was before he started working with the place out in Boulder that Ben works with, and started doing,
was it like Gaia or something?
Gaia. He started working with Gaia on the History Channel. He had not a penny to his name, and his whole website had been taken over by his web developer because of a contract. And I was trying to help him get it back. And we got a lot of his information back, got him some new pages started, but fascinating human being. He would he would take the time to talk to you for hours.
Yeah, I had many conversations with him as well.
Yeah. Like he would just sit there and he would tell you the history of the world on a phone call. Like he's doing it in front of thousands of people. And he was just a remarkable human being. And I know a lot of people like, oh, he was deep state and fuck that shit. No,
these
he was
people,
a good dude, man.
look, you just go, either people stand on the merit of their work or not. And also, there are things about that Jordan Maxwell was into that I don't agree with. There's stuff that you don't have to agree with everybody on everything. Like David Icke right now, I hate his Twitter. I hate following his Twitter. It's just, he's got a bad take on a lot of things, but the guy is a freaking legend when it comes to breaking down the lineaments of this global situation. Right. And, so you go to people for certain things. That's how I see it. Everybody's got tools. None of us are perfect. We're also sort of biased towards our own view, and nobody should be having this expectation put on them that they should be anything more than that, which means that everybody's human, right? And therefore, when you are researching these things, when you hear somebody say something and you go verify it, and then they helped show you the way on something, and then maybe in something else you don't agree with them and you think they're way off, you should still be able to give them a debt of gratitude for the knowledge they gave you. Yeah. And this is a skill that is missing in modern day journalism and research, that is actually harboring and restricting people's research, because they're just trying to research in these safe little bubbles where everybody they're researching agrees with every single thing that everybody believes. And this is just, I'm so sorry to say, leading you more towards some sort of cult thinking and not independent research, which is what this movement was really founded on.
I did an interview with Ben Stewart a while back, a few years ago, and I was asking him about the movie Esoteric Agenda, which if I was Ben, I'd be absolutely proud of that movie. That's a great movie, right?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Came out at a good time too.
Yeah. Right after Zeitgeist, and it opened so many people's eyes. And he's like, it was a good movie, but it wasn't the best. And he goes, I had so many people coming forward to me, reaching out to me after, telling me the various different things in there that I got wrong. Like Jordan Maxwell was one of them. And he's like, I made so many friends, but they showed me where I was wrong in a lot of this movie. But he was humbled by it, and he made Chimatica after, right? And so that's the key, is he didn't say push him away and say, I'm right and you don't know what you're talking about and all this stuff. But instead, he became humbled by the information. He utilized it and went out there and made something better. And that's the beautiful thing. But right now, there's theories out there you can't touch. I did this the other day on the show. I said, if the Trump's attempted assassination has taught us one thing, it's teaching us that there is an invisible war that is going on right now in front of us. But it also shows you that the military did nothing to stop it. And I said, since the military did nothing to stop it, since the Secret Service failed, Donald Trump almost lost his life, this proves undoubtedly that Trump is not commander-in-chief.
Or another option.
Yep.
This was staged, but it wasn't staged by the bad guys. It's the exact momentum needed in the war.
That's a hard one.
It's a hard one. I just said maybe. I mean, we can't get and it could be something else. I don't know. I'm just throwing shit at the wall. But interesting.
If you look at, I talked about it the other day. It's capitulation. So, the attempted assassination attempt, and immediately after, Trump picks his vice presidential running mate. The same day of his vice presidential running mate, you have the classified documents case that gets thrown out of court. And then you get endorsements from Andreessen Horowitz. You get from Silicon Valley. You get Jamie Dimon potentially appointed to the Secretary of Treasury during the Trump second administration. These are deep staters.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you have JD Vance, who's the former business partner of Peter Thiel, which is on the planning committee of the Bilderberg Group, right? So you start seeing capitulation. And this is where I bring in the multi-headed hydra, is that these two groups right here tried to take Trump out. They failed. Those other groups all saw that and said, they don't have it anymore. They might have had it during Kennedy. They don't have it now. They're losing power. They're losing accuracy. And this is the death of those groups. We're capitulating. We're going to align with Donald Trump. And that's what you saw right after the attempted assassination, was those other heads of the Hydra aligning with Donald Trump or selecting Donald Trump.
Right. Right. Yeah. And you could also have a situation where, because I just don't know if people understand what it must be like up at the top levels there. Okay. That, I was trying to make this point with people like Elon and maybe others who old school conspiracy researchers are going to immediately just go, no, he's the transhumanist, mark of the beast, whatever. But then you go, well, but things may have changed, right? Things can change. Would you agree? It's like if we're going off research that's 40 years old or 20 years old or 5 years old, man, even research from last month is outdated these days. So you think, all right, what if there are people who are trapped? Like, think of these celebrities that are trapped in this world, this dark, hidden underground world that we don't know anything about. And many of them don't agree with it, but didn't previously have a way of doing anything else but capitulating to whoever was in power. There's also blackmail going on, right? That's the whole currency of the entire rigged system. So when a Trump or a new element comes in that was unexpected, that is trying to turn the ship around, at least to a degree, you have now people going, oh, is it safe to come out now? Is it safe to, we're fighting back? This is what's happening. Like, and then what if you get read in on an actual agenda afoot going on and you go, yeah, no, or what about deals being made? Like we heard a lot about that in those posts, that some will take the deal, some will take the bullet or whatever. Right. So, you got, what if people who were formerly on the other side, who were basically shown, all right, we've caught it. We've caught your ass. So you got two choices. You're either going to jail for the rest of your life, or you're being executed for treason against the country, or you can take the deal and start working for our side to help, because, Trump needs the Ohio. He's from Ohio, right? We need some optics over here, or we need the other thing that we've known, according to this theory, if we're to play it out, is that look at what Trump did with Fauci. Right? Where everybody's like, how could you have Fauci or Bolton, that other guy that was in the Bush administration, the war hawk, right? What does he do? Elevates them, puts them out in the front. The Queen of England walks circles around her, totally disses the entire royal family in the way he showed up late and didn't give a shit, walked in front of the guards, like whatever. And then goes back and is like, oh, the Queen was lovely. She was a beautiful person. But deep down, he knows that it's a criminal racket. So, you kind of got to think, if this is optics of like, do you think they're going to read you in on everything, even on the posts? Like, what if there's also been guys that are embedded agents who have to have the public persona, and not just public persona, but the persona in front of the deep state people, of being a part of that agenda and being raised in it? And how do you plant people in that matrix, in that those families, to be a grenade that'll go off later at a specific strategic time? I know it might be a reach, but I'm just saying there's a lot of options that can explain these things. And then even with, well, you know what, I'll end it there. And what do you think about that?
Well, I think that you got a lot of great valid points, and I think that you're spot on. Elon Musk, for instance, people went after Elon Musk on Halloween because he was wearing this red costume from the video game Diablo. Right. And I look at that as kind of symbolism, is that number one, the video game Diablo, you, the character, the mortal character, are working to rid the kingdom of Diablo.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You're like the good guy.
You're the good guy.
Diablo. Yeah.
Yeah. You're the good guy trying to rid the world of Diablo. Right. And maybe that was him taunting. And at that higher level, at that upper echelon of that multi-headed hydra, it can't be easy. Number two is you got to align yourself with other factions or you will lose your head, quite literally. You have to play the game. You're not going to rid the U.S. deep state. You're not going to rid the world of the Satanist cabal at the same time that you're getting rid of the Bilderbergers, the same time you're getting rid of the WEF, the same time that you're getting rid of all these other cults and different ideologies. You're not going to do it all at the same time. And really at that level, there is the Tudor dynasty, right? It's the War of the Roses. That's what's going on up there. And it's this back and forth. And that you have to align with these various different factions in order to get ahead in the world. That's why I said that Trump was selected and that you had others that capitulated. And now, like I even changed my tone the other day. I said, now the potential arises for there actually to be an election in November, for Donald Trump to win that election rightfully, and for him to actually be sworn in as president in 2025. Like that whole avenue just opened up for him.
Yep.
Because of what just happened. And the Democrats, the deep state, they know it. And they're pissed. And they don't know what to do.
And it happened right after that disastrous debate that destroyed any semblance, any fraction of credibility for Biden.
Yeah.
And got the whole media questioning whether he was healthy or not.
Well, he definitely wasn't, but how do you recover from that? You don't. And he can't step down because you're immediately going to lose the election because you lose 3 states. But I put this out the other day is, I don't remember the Supreme Court justice's name, but do you remember a few months ago, about 6 months before Jackson came in, Supreme Court Justice Katanya Jackson, or whatever her name is, that there was a Democrat justice that was in there. And they announced his retirement, and he was like, "What? I'm retiring?" And he said like this funny comment, like, "I didn't even know I was retiring until they told me."
Yeah.
Right? But that's how it operates at that level. So the last few days, what have you heard? Joe Biden's going to be dropping out of the race, potentially dropping out of the race by Sunday. Yesterday, his campaign managers came out and said, "No, we have no plans on dropping out of the race. Whoever's telling you this is lying. We have no plans of dropping out." So that's happening again, but now with Joe Biden. And I came out and I said, look, Obama doesn't like Biden. Biden doesn't like Obama. Biden blackmailed Obama the first 2 years, or the first 8 years of Obama's presidency. So when Obama had the opportunity to blackmail Biden and allow him to be president and operate from the backdrop, he took it. I also think that Joe Biden probably doesn't have dementia, that he's being drugged by Obama and that group to make it look like he does. Just a theory, but that's just my theory. But Jill is the liaison. She is the handler. And I think what's happening right now is that Biden is staying in the campaign, staying in the race because he's cutting a deal. Right? And here's the thing. Do you remember Donald Trump left a letter on the desk, the Resolute desk for Joe Biden? Yep. And Joe Biden was asked about the letter, and he says, well, it was a very generous letter. Now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just the other day released a video. He said his videographer there was there recording, and Trump called him right before the RNC, and he was still recording. He forgot about it. His son posted it on Twitter and released it. I think that this was released on purpose. I don't think that it was an accident. And I think Trump told RFK to release that part. Because in there, Trump says Joe Biden called him at the hospital. Joe Biden called Donald Trump at the hospital. And they were shooting the shit. Now, Trump leaves Biden a very generous letter. Biden is in a pickle because the Democratic Party has abandoned him, that's controlled by Obama and Clinton. They are trying to push him out, and they will kill him if he doesn't get out. He calls up Donald Trump. Hey, I got your letter in my hand. Let's talk. On that same day, the 17th, Trump's campaign did a press release and stated in the press release, We don't know the date and the time for the vice presidential debate because honestly, we don't think that Vice President Harris is going to be the vice presidential running candidate. And so we don't want to do an injustice to all Newsom or any of these people until we know who the vice presidential running candidate is. And then the next day is when all the rhetoric started about Joe Biden dropping out of the race. But how did the Trump campaign know that a day before? I think Jill Biden cut a deal from that letter, the generous letter, with Trump. And I think that they're going to stay and not give up to the Democrats, which is going to hurt them even. But they're done either way. But there's got to be a play here, and I think we're going to see it all come down. And
I mean,
don't know.
there's so many wacky things going on around all this that, I mean, I'm at a point where they could come up and tell me these people all been wearing Mission Impossible masks, like, and we don't know what's going on. And these are moves done to, you know, win this war in terms of perception, right? Because if, like, the way I think of it, and there was a few points I was going to bring, I'll go with the first one. It has to do with talking about some of these people that were either on the other side before, or at least optically on the other side, right? That are now suddenly being endorsed and suddenly being promoted. And, you know, and people are wondering why that is. Now, it could be to just further expose and flush out and smoke out all the rats. That could just be part of it, because there's so many that it's going to take time. Or it could also be a dynamic where, you know, in those films that we see about these like hardened detectives or people that have to do undercover shit, right? And then you get into the role of being undercover, and you got to do some shit to show the mafia that you're undercover trying to do a sting on. You got to show them that you are legit. And so a lot of these types of agents would have to do things that are illegal, including maybe even murder, who knows, in order to win a bigger game. And in that process, some of them might even get caught legally by other police forces, or even the public catch it in the media and everything. And then they're looked at as being the bad guy when they were actually part of the sting, and they were trying to do something to show their fealty or loyalty to the mafia they're trying to infiltrate, and they get thrown under the bus, but they weren't necessarily a part of the bad team. And I'm thinking of that in terms of just as like using your imagination to understand how deep some of the dynamics at play could be with some of these figures, that some of these people may have had to be on those sides and say certain public statements, or even sign certain laws into effect, or even do certain things, or support certain bills. Like we've got this thing with Canadian politicians too, where they're all signing on for certain bills. But then you go, well, are they signing on to those bills because they're part of the WEF agenda? Or is there a certain sacrifice they're making in order to make any headway on bigger issues that they have to capitulate in order to be seen as part of the pack? Because these political in Parliament, man, it is two mafias playing ping pong. That's all it is. Okay. And it's the same in all these political houses. So I guess what I'm saying is, if there's any hope of any good people trying to fight back, it's not going to be as cut and dry and obvious as people are expecting. And we've been told about this in so many different ways, even just in a lot of the films we've been watching. I mean, the way these dynamics work in the cloak and dagger world of intelligence and politics and all these things, right?
Yeah, in some of these people, you know, they are nothing more than plebes. So they are nothing more than just, they are expendable, and they are just the hired people. So whoever's in control, they're going to do what they're told, and they're going to do how it's supposed to be done. So we got to, keep that in mind as well. And I think that it's a really good perspective to have kind of on what's going on. But I think it's mind blowing to believe that there is this upper echelon of society, of the world right now, that is in an invisible war for power and control of this planet. Because it literally is. And I think that with our talk with David Icke is that there's another level above that is controlling things at a much deeper and darker, or even lighter spiritual level. I think that level is going on as well. But I think that is more of influence and direction other than directed events in the sequence. But I think that there's a lot happening on this planet right now. Now, what are your thoughts? Because one thing, Game Tech Politic and myself for the last year have talked that UFO sightings are going to start increasing. And we just saw that there was a mass UFO sighting at Red Rocks, at Red Rocks Amphitheater. There was another public UFO sighting just a few weeks ago. It was all over the news. Up in Canada, the two suns in the sky, right? They're happening all over the place. So what are your thoughts on what's happening with that? Our technology, are we being visited? Is there something else going on? Is really the power and control of this planet because there is something else happening?
Yeah, well, you and I spoke, we've done some great shows in the past on the whole subject. I haven't been up on a lot of the modern stuff going on, although I did see an interesting interview with David Grush, who, whatever anybody thinks about what he's doing, I couldn't believe he said it in the interview, and it had nothing to do with UFOs, really. Well, I guess it did in the end, but he was talking about the papal bloodlines in the Vatican and the whole thing and the history and what they know and that they're involved and the whole thing with Italy, because he kept referencing this old sighting that took place in Italy or recovery or something.
Yeah, 38. Yeah. Italy recovered a UFO and they gave it to the United States. The Vatican did.
Right. The Vatican did. Okay. And we know about the fact that the Knights of Malta started the CIA, right? We know this. All the original CIA founders were all Knights of Malta, which that's the Vatican army, right? They're the first intelligence guys on the block. So you wonder what's going on there. And I don't know about so the issue with more UFO sightings is anything documented is going to always be now accused of being deep fakes. So it's really hard to know. We can get information from the reporting centers, and there's still MUFON and some of these other groups, even though they're not, I don't think, totally on the up and up in many cases. But hey, there's many reporting centers out there that you can get an idea as to if there's an uptick in reportings. And then the issue people have and skeptics have with reportings is they're like, well, look at the Condon report, look at all these reports, and vast majority of them can be explained. And so then you got to sift through. And it's been always like this in the UFO movement is, not having necessarily those smoking guns that are appealing en masse to the public. And so then you got these guys coming out, and it's been an effort going on since like 2001 with military intelligence, people trying to come out and say what they know about the subject. And now it seems like ever since there was that push through this testimony that came out, and I know you guys were documenting that as well, that there is at least more talk about UFOs. So then another accusation would be, not accusation, but just one thing skeptics might say is, well, the reason there's more UFO sightings is because it's on everybody's mind now more because of all the talk and all the reporting. And now New York Times is reporting it. And so now everybody's seeing UFOs. So it's kind of hard to pin it down. So I guess my position is to always default back to, I believe we live in an era where no matter what happens, the reason nothing can stop what is coming, meaning a massive declass of formerly classified information from the public coming out, is that it's going to be impossible to hide it moving forward. And so this is one of those subjects that they're kind of awkwardly having to start disclosing and also still denying until certain of things happen or whatever. And I think some of this does have to do with this battle you're talking about behind the scenes. One side wants it out, another side doesn't. I remember Bob Dean used to talk about this, and he used to say all the time, there's factions within the military and intelligence that know about all this stuff, the technology, the recovered craft, the bodies, the whole history, the amount of groups that are interfacing, whatever. And they are wanting to come out, but then there's another faction that pretty much holds all the keys that doesn't want it to come out. So my thinking is this subject is in the same position as all the other subjects that need to be declassified to the public. And I'm wondering are we going to get hit all at once with some of this stuff? And also to your question, what does this subject, the UFO subject, again, regardless of what people's theory of what it is that subject a part of all the other subjects? Is it bigger, whether people think it's a psyop, whether people think it's back engineered technology? If it's back engineered technology, or let's say not even back engineered, let's say it's all human engineered advanced technology that's not being disclosed and it's been flying around complete impunity for 60 plus years, that defies all of everything we think we know in the public sector of what we can do. That's also massive. The fact that if that's human made, that means that kind of proves the whole breakaway civilization concept and that they've been working on tech. So that's huge. That would be a huge disclosure. Add to that, what if that tech, that a lot of it we are seeing is, we're seeing humans operating it. The reason it's so advanced is because it came from recovered technology or negotiated technology from something not us. That is far advanced than what we are and what we're going to be even in the next 100 years or 500 years. And then that's the debate. So I go back to my whole sort of operating thesis, but I'm also more than willing to think outside of that box as well. And I think that this subject is so powerful because it brings people to ask questions about everything else. What other subject, Josh, can you think of that's going to get people to question politics, social conditioning, information management in the media, religion, science, physics, life, the meaning of life, philosophy? Like what other subject inspires people to question all those things simultaneously better than the UFO subject? It's just because it's so, if there's any validity to any of it, it's so mind-boggling. The implications are so mind-boggling on all those areas that it really makes you go, what if this isn't just a bunch of corrupt politicians or a bunch of genocidal globalists? What if there's something not of this earth, not of this family of humanity that is involved both on the positive side and the negative side? Because I said this recently, I'll just wrap with this. If you and I are looking out at the world and that's all you can do, and we're seeing that it's a really dark place in many ways. There's a lot of evil and murder and killing and rape and torture and pedophilia and horrible and lies and conspiracy. And there's a lot of that, but it's not just that. There's also brilliant genius, art, creativity, people that are operating off the principles we opened with, getting out and putting their hands to work and being productive and having a good spirit and having a good look on life and positive outlook and seeing a brilliant future. And they love freedom and they love, truth, right? That means that if amongst us, what are we doing? We're channeling light. That's what your consciousness is. That's what you've been told by every ancient book ever written, really, in just different ways, that we have this thing called consciousness, spirit, something. Spirit is the combination of light and breath. That's what the word means, spiritus, right? Even conspiracy means conspire, spire, to breathe together. That's what it means. Yeah. So you go, all right, if we are conducting consciousness, as is all the frogs and the rabbits and the deers and every other life, and then we're imagining that we're in a universe teeming with life and different expressions of life as we see in the oceans and everything, then it stands to reason that if we're thinking about an advanced civilization, we would see an expression of both the good and the bad. And because these are it's part of our reality, no matter where you are, because we are all conducting consciousness, and consciousness has that double-edged sword to it. So that to me says that not everything we're seeing in the human level or on the hyperdimensional or ET level or whatever you want to call it is all one way or the other. It's a mixed bag because we're a mixed bag, right? And if man is the measure of the universe, all you got to do is look within and without, and you're going to get some understanding of how this expands on the as above, so below principle. And to me, that's just the best reasoning I can give. I don't have any evidence other than that, but I think it's reasonable to sit there as we watch this whole thing unfold.
Wow. Spectacular. Dude, you got to come on with me more often. I know you've been.
I do. I miss it. I miss you, brother. And I'm sorry it's been so long, sincerely.
Yeah. Are you broadcasting much anymore?
I am. I'm just not doing lives. I don't know what it is. And I don't know. And maybe it's just a mood thing and it'll switch. But for some reason, I've really been enjoying doing my best work where I get some time to polish it and not be re-listening back to, all the little things that you do in the live stream and just making it 100% about the work. And I'm just going to do that for a little bit. And then who knows, maybe I'll jump back into my lives again. But I love coming on your lives, man. And if I'm available, I will come, absolutely. And I appreciate it.
Well, you just let me know. You have an ultimate invite. So if you know
very
I'm going live, you're just like, dude, hey, you need a guest, you're coming in. So
awesome.
Guys, dwtruthwarrior.com is his website, or you can go to dwtruthwarrior.substack.com to find all of his content and what he's doing now. David Whitehead, thank you, man. Much appreciated, bro.
Brother. Thanks, everybody.
You're fantastic. Man. Guys, we're going to be going to Fringe After Dark. Fringe After Dark is on socialredpill.com, socialredpill.com, $5 a month, and you can join in with us tonight. I will be heading over there in about 5 minutes. I'll see you guys over there. Much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a good night.
Boone, that's impossible. Only try to realize the truth.
What truth?
There is no spoon.